Software gore. What are we going to do about this as programmers? We see these memes. Are people making fun of us? Do they think this is funny? I am kidding. This is a real thing, and I want to address it here in this video. I'm a software developer, and apparently also now a video editing specialist. That's what people seem to know me for, although I'm definitely not that. Anyway, there's a lot of buzz recently about the state of software engineering and that it might be in a state of decline. And all the software gore we see, these memes might seem a little bit funny to some people. And, they are humorous at times. But how does this happen? And that's what I want to talk about and how we can fix it and maybe what we can all do to try to make this problem start to dwindle and maybe we can improve the state of software engineering one small step at a time. But first, let's just check out some memes. Ohio will be eliminated. I am human. Incorrect. Please try again. Play Black Mesa or play Black Mesa. It's a real head scratcher there. Not sure which one to pick. What's this one? Could not copy files because no. Because no. These are quite hilarious. Peppa Pig. Infamous World War II Death Factory comes to life. Step inside the experience and horror for yourself. Peppa Pig, you got dark. Please wait while OneNote inserts the D. Okay, I gotta stop here. I think you get it. Sometimes they're funny, but also sometimes they're very dangerous. We've known software to cause some serious accidents. About a year ago, there was a pretty bad accident where a plane went down because of a system not controlling its angle. This isn't the one, this is just the article. Wait, yeah, this is the one. See, this was published May 7th, 2019 on the Claims Journal. And it talks about how a sensor basically failed to do the right thing. And it all came back to whoever engineered the software. Things were overlooked and a plane went down and people died. This was software gore, but it turned into real gore, and it's really tragic. And that sort of thing really hits home to a software developer when you think you might be working on autonomous things one day. You never know. Really, I just want to do games because they're relatively safe and you don't have to worry about too much. The gore stays like contained within that, unless you're CD Projekt Red and you just want to release a game way too early and destroy your own company. That's kind of a different story. Yeah, I'm sure everybody knows what I'm talking about. I recently watched this talk by Jonathan Blow called Preventing the Collapse of Civilization that he did quite a while ago, about a year ago. And I guess it was 2 years ago. Well, he brings up basically software gore in this talk, and his big thesis is that all technologies at some point become lost or forgotten over time, and the expertise of how it was once done is lost over time. Knowledge is not often transferred to the next generation, and all these great things we have are buried as a relic of the past and become lost. So that's the whole thesis of this talk, and he relates it to software, and that this could happen to software, and based on sort of the state of things compared to how like precise all the OG guys who made Linux and stuff originally, and who pioneered all this software and stuff. We're in a state where we kind of just hack things together that are pieces of things that are already built or something along those lines. So a lot of the programmers these days don't really know what goes on behind the scenes, and they're just kind of using tools to build things. But if they didn't have those tools, they wouldn't be able to do much because they don't know how memory works. They don't know how computers work. They don't understand how the electricity flows through the components of a computer and all that stuff. So I'm sure I could say it much more eloquently, but I think you probably get the point here, and the point I'm getting to, because I don't want to make this super long, but I do want to drop some references. Jonathan Blow in this talk leaves a lot of great references for more things you can watch about this sort of dystopian software gore and our civilization and software going downhill. But I don't want that to happen, as you may have guessed, since I have this channel called Code Tech Tutorials, which is all about simplifying and making the stuff as simple as possible, basically. And it's not only that, it kind of, you know, yeah, subscribe. Please subscribe. I know like only 5% of you that watch are subscribed, so please help me get that number a little higher. That would be amazing. A lot of people that watch my channel watch it because they want to learn something. And what I want to do is try to bridge that gap for a lot of people. Now, I know I won't be able to help everybody, or some people might just be way beyond my level and not need my, whatever. There's always a case where, um, I don't know what I'm saying. Basically, the point is I'm trying to do something to help, but also I'm documenting my experience. As you might know, I have a degree in computer science, just a bachelor's, and while it was more of just something I needed to do to make sure I had the core knowledge, because I was kind of coming into this, I would just look things up online all the time, try to figure stuff out, but you don't really know what you're missing until it's put in front of you sometimes. I know that sounds weird, but that's kind of one of the biggest things about school or going through any course, really, is it gets you branching out into areas. So, but schools are notoriously becoming worse and worse these days. Unfortunately, your results may vary. I'm sure there are still tons of really great schools out there, don't get me wrong, but there are also some that are, for lack of a better word, a scam to just get your college money and give you some sort of degree sort of thing. So, what can we do to prevent this? Well, I think the biggest and best thing we can do is share our knowledge and keep things as open source as possible. So one of the biggest issues seems to be when the old guy that knew how to do everything retires, there's nobody to fill his spot. So all these newcomers come in, and for some reason they can't get this knowledge. And I was wondering, why is that? Couldn't they just ask him? Shouldn't he have understudies? If he's been doing this for so long, he should definitely have some people under his belt that he's like, training and stuff. That's how it's always worked at any place I've ever worked, basically, is yeah, you bring the new guys in, have them get mentored, and that's their initial starting period, is them being mentored some and seeing if they can kind of start to grasp this stuff. And so I guess that doesn't always happen. Now, in the past, you can imagine why that didn't happen, like way in the past when civilizations collapsed and, they lost all the technology of the ancient Egyptians and stuff. Now, I'm no historian, but I'm just kind of riffing because that sort of thing did happen. It's easier to imagine because they didn't have cars and internet and paper and printers. They were, stamping things in the tablets, or like clay tablets, not computer tablets, but like actual rock and carving into rock and stuff. And we don't have to deal with that anymore. Everything's available. So, to completely disagree with Jonathan Blow, I don't think software is in decline. I think it's actually quite going in the opposite direction. A lot of people are able to get a lot of this old knowledge that was really hard to discover before. Now, thanks to the internet and all this easy research we can do all day, it's a lot easier. So why are we seeing more software gore? Well, I think I know. But before we continue, let me just take this code I don't understand and throw it into the bin of doom. So the hypothesis I have for you is that there are just a ton of software developers these days. There used to not be very many. So here's a report from this DAX website about number of software developers. 2018, about 24 million. 2019, about 26 and a half. And then by 2023, it's projected there'll be another million. So it looks like we're gaining, I don't know, we'll say approximately 1.5 million every year, new developers, or just total number. So some might be retiring and leaving this. I'm guessing. I don't know how they pull their statistics. I guess they have some things about it here. So I assume they're semi correct. But basically, as these new software developers start and get hired, they make mistakes. That's that's probably the biggest thing. Now, it should be up to, someone with some experience to oversee all this and not let the mistakes come to light or go out in the world, but it happens. And yeah, with so many new people joining, you're going to see some of these mistakes. It's inevitable. It happens, so it's kind of a lull of odds. So where in the past there were very few developers and very few pieces of software really. So when software was made, it was tested, by the rest of the people in your field, presumably, and they'd be pretty good at sorting it out and sorting out all the different options. There weren't as many options. Now software comes with packages, extensions, and all sorts of things, and all of it needs to play nicely. And it's hard to get everything tested. So I think that's the reason why, is just because there's so much more software and so many new developers that we're just seeing, maybe a slightly higher percent of bad software, but also, just with so much software, we're going to see more bad software in general. Hope that makes sense. It makes sense in my head, but I feel like I explained it weirdly. So Casey Moriarty, who you might know from the programming he does live all the time with I can't Handmade Hero. That's what it is. He did like a lecture called the 30 million line problem. And if you haven't watched it, you should definitely check it out. But one of the things he states in it is that software now is just layered on top of other software. So when you have one underlying piece go wrong, it makes the stuff that you are presumably doing correctly go wrong because something underneath it did. So you don't have access to all this underlying stuff. There's a lot of different levels of languages, from machine code to assembly to C and up. So if you're using something that's way on top of all that and someone made a mistake way back in the C code, you don't have any control over that because you're using an overarching layer. So that's one of the big points he makes here. And with so many lines of code and so many things you're not even aware of happening anymore, it just becomes like too much, and there's just bound to be errors. So he kind of points that out, and it does make sense. There's obviously a lot more to the talk, but I thought it was really interesting. Problems just become exponential after a while if you just keep layering this software and just things underneath that you're not really sure how they work, but they do. I come across this a lot myself, little incidents here and there every day. Sometimes it's just Googling stuff. So it's often said that big institutions eventually will fail to upkeep their software for some reason. And I'm not really sure why that is, but it does seem to be true. We've seen that very recently with CD Projekt Red, who have made just tons of amazing games, but in this last one have just completely missed the mark. Well, I don't want to say completely. That's a whole nother subject on its own, but basically I'm gonna listen to the devs. Forget what everyone else says about Cyberpunk 2077. The bottom line is this, and I heard it directly from one of the devs on the inside team that was working on the game. I don't know where. It was on some YouTube video in an interview. But basically, he said the game will be ready in 2021. That's how it was projected. That's how everything looked from the inside. And that was how it was in the devs' minds because of just the general scope of things. So, my point is, don't play the game until about a year from now. So, in 2022, basically, pick up Cyberpunk, and then it'll be good because it'll actually be finished. Right now, it is not a finished game, and just the absolute oversight and marketing it so hard and putting all that pressure into marketing and just leaving the devs in the dirt like that. That was wrong. That was really wrong. That was a really dirty move. I can't imagine anybody ever working for CD Projekt Red or just like going in there like, oh, I can work for this company. It's like when they're going to be blacklisted by devs unless they really actually get this straightened out uh, from a leadership perspective, you know? And it's not about overworking the devs, it's about just managing the project correctly. Hilarious situation. So, anyway, the point I was getting to is Google, too. Google's starting to see this a lot. Their software is getting worse and worse. A lot of people complaining about Gmail. Sure, they usually eventually fix it, but I see this with search results now, and there's no way to like do anything about it. Because like I was just one day looking at OpenGL, unload textures and objects. Seems like a pretty straightforward thing, and Google should be able to get you right to that. But no, no. Look at this top link. Do you see the date on this? You really think this is the best result, Google? This is like the biggest joke of a search result ever. So this just them giving me an article that's 13 years old about a technology. It's like if you looked up news about the iPhone and they started telling you about the iPhone 2 as the top link, you know? That's what this is like. This is abysmal. And there's nothing I can do about it. I can't say this is irrelevant now. This no longer makes sense. And it doesn't. This is like, I did look through this. It's completely useless information these days. There's nothing here that's any good for OpenGL or unloading textures or objects or anything. This is just completely useless link. So I looked at the next one, about the same, completely useless. Completely, most of these are just completely useless. Finally, the third one takes you to the actual documentation of how to do this stuff. So this was like the first actual useful link, but these first two are just so far off. They're not even close to the mark. If they were close to the mark, I could give them a little credit, but these are just like, they're just so far off. It blows my mind that this common of like a search and a technology and a thing, shouldn't Google have a little bit of insight as to not give you an old article? So it's just kind of a real world example that I ran into recently about this software gore stuff and the potential decline from these big companies. So what can we do about it? That's the big question. And the only thing really is we can learn from each other and we can teach each other and we can make open source stuff and we can leave comments about actual proper links and scientific documentation and how things actually work and things you need to know for little specific incidents. Basically, we have to make sure we transfer all this knowledge we know, because if one of us developers that knows like things that hardly anybody else knows because we've been studying our butts off for years, what happens if we get hit by a bus tomorrow and we never get to transfer this knowledge? What have we been working for, you know? Start writing stuff, start documenting, start making videos. That's how we prevent the software gore. That's how we prevent the collapse. I don't know. It just felt like I had to say something dramatic there. Well, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you to all my viewers and all you guys. And I'm going to leave some links down below. If you want to show me further support or anything, please feel free to leave a comment and help me get a higher subscriber count than 5-6%, please. That would be awesome. Love you guys. Matt from Code Tech Tutorials, over and out. Peace.